Digimon Ghost Game is almost completely episodic. The main plot only happens in like the last 3 episodes, and it needed a couple more episodes to fully do it. But there are underlying threats that are shown throughout the series that make you think there's going to be something big and cool, and I think if it just had a couple more episodes in the oven, it would have been great. But as individual episodes, it's fun to watch. There is, however, one definite plot thread of development, and that is Gamamon. I'm going to wait to reveal what I rank Gamamon as. But we do have to give some context to Gamamon, and that's with his tamer, Hiro. So, Hiro's mom works overseas, and his dad disappeared into the digital world after developing the Vital Bracelet Digivice. He sends him Gamamon and the Digivice, and is like, here's a little brother for you. If he had not said this is a little brother for you and your responsibility, Hiro might not have dealt with him. Hiro is a very interesting kid. There's untapped interest in there. He knows how to pick locks. He's pretty self-sufficient. He has an odd scar on his ear, and none of these things are explored. But it's suggested like, oh, why is this kid living in a dorm? Well, it's because both of his parents are AWOL, and it's kind of forced him to develop these weird skills and responsibilities. But Hiro doesn't get to change. What he does get to do is be the brother to Gamamon and the big brother. So Gamamon comes in like a toddler. Guilmon's a baby or a puppy. Gamamon reads like a toddler. Gamamon is adorable, but he's learning like not to bite on things. He has his own words for things that he really likes, like he calls chocolate his champion. It's very cute. There's 2 big plot points that I think make Gamamon worthy of what I'm going to rate him on. A little bit more about Gamamon. Let's do the nice, happy things first. So, being a child under Hiro, he learns about responsibilities, a list of things you're not allowed to do in the house, like biting things and breaking them. He learns how to do a first errand, and everyone watches it. It's like that show on Netflix. The errand goes horribly awry because I think the witching hour happens or something, but he develops. He goes from like a very young toddler to an older toddler to like, I would say a very young child. So he has kind of an age up development that I don't think other Digimon really show. Most Digimon don't get more mature with time. As I kind of mentioned with Agumon, Agumon being immature while Tai matures makes Tai more interesting with his relationship with Agumon. Gamamon's the one developing here. The other interesting thing about Gamamon is that inside him is a very evil Digimon, who's technically champion level, but is roughly ultimate level power, called Gulus Gamamon, who was born of a virus that exists in a meteorite, and this is the form that originally touched down to the digital world before he was defeated and kind of sealed away in Gamamon. Gulus Gamamon is also an interesting character, and I thought about giving him his own slot on this list. Gamamon has actually a bunch of different champion levels, which makes him kind of unique. And when they're counting them out, Hiro's actually afraid to count Gulus Gamamon among them, because Gulus Gamamon first appears when Gamamon first experiences death, which is the other plot point I think makes Gamamon a great character. So they have a fun side character who's like a Professor Bokomon, and he teaches the Digimon more about how to like handle their bodies in the real world. He teaches Gamamon stuff, he talks about the digital world and how they might be able to get to it. And then he is murdered by Sealsdramon, a Digimon who is only murdering to rise up in the ranks. Gamamon sees this, and without Hiro's input, digivolves into Gulus Gamamon. Gulus Gamamon wrecks Sealsdramon easily, and unlike any other Dark evolution, Gulus Gamamon's perfectly sane. He's in control of everything he's doing. He grabs the Digimon by the throat and aims his tail at it, and tells Hiro to give the order to kill him. Hiro hears the voice of the attack name in his head, and he eggs him on, but he doesn't do it. And then he's like, oh, well, screw this, I'm killing him anyway. So he kills Sealsdramon, and then tries to escape into the real world, because they're currently in like a digital bubble. Irrelevant. But the timer runs out, he goes back to Gamamon. Gamamon doesn't remember Bokomon dying, much like a child wouldn't. Instead, they tell him that he's gone on a journey and try to explain the concept of death to him. It's a place that you might not ever see him again, that he's going to be gone for a long time. and Gamamon doesn't know how to take that. And then later on in an episode, I'm skipping over a bunch of development here, but they fight a Digimon called Rarebon. It was a Digimon that was attached to a bunch of like electronic junk that was getting thrown into a forest and crushed, which kept on crushing the Digimon, and then he'd reform. His goo would like create zombies, and it was basically a suffering pile of mess. This is kind of the Digimon equivalent of Meikomon, where I guess here's another thing I didn't mention. Very few Digimon die in Ghost Game. A lot of them escape for later, just leave and not come back. So they fight like a Cherrymon who's murdering people. They chop off his arms, and then he disappears into the mist because the forest has a new protector who will be able to fight him off. They fight, not Belphamon. It's the evolved form of Boogiemon. Felismon? Yeah, it's Felismon. They fight Felismon, who is trying to create a pentagram to solidify his servant Digimon. They fight him off, and he's like, oh, this is too spicy for me against 3 humans with partners. Digimon, I'm leaving. So not a lot of Digimon die. Before fighting Raremon, Bokamon died. We didn't see... I guess the main characters didn't see Sealsdramon killing most of the Digimon, or at least Gamamon didn't. Angoramon kills a Digimon. We'll talk about that later. Gamamon's not really that major to that fight. So this is really the first time Gamamon and Hero are making the choice to basically mercy kill this giant toxic Digimon by setting alight a propane tank that's in his body to explode him. And when he does, what Gamamon says is that Raremon's gone on a journey. So, what does that tell us about Gamamon? Over time, he has learned about and accepted death. But that's not the only thing that he has to learn and accept throughout the series. He ends up having to accept Gulus Gamamon, which is a part of him. They have a fight in the mind. He's losing at the start. He doesn't know how to get better about it. Eventually, friendship pulls through, defeats Gulus Gamamon, but doesn't kill him. Instead, Gulus Gamamon still exists in his mind, and what he does is he uses what he learned from Hero to make a list of rules that Gulus Gamamon has to follow now. So Gamamon's journey of learning boundaries, learning how to be a responsible child adult, and then using that against his darker impulses, learning and accepting death, that's a lot of development for a Digimon. I feel like I'm making this such a somber, reflective piece to say that Gamamon is the second S rank on this tier list in a series that could have been so much better. So let's move him up there. Lol Lamau. Not as good as Impmon though, sorry. Angoramon. I guess it's easiest to say how he's separate by talking about his partner. So his partner is Ruri. She's a pianist, she's a social media blogger. She really wants ghosts to be real and is upset whenever it's Digimon. She's the one who will seek out the spooky scenarios and want to investigate them. And Goramon really cares for her. He first fell in love with her playing before basically doing everything he can to protect her from a Dracmon. And his evolution chain is interesting in that it all reflects about how he wants to protect Ruri. So he starts as a big, fluffy bunny. He wants to be a comforter, he wants to be kind of a wall to protect her. He digivolves into Simbara Angoramon. Now he's a martial artist, he's more like a Yojimbo figure. And then when that power's not enough, the next evolution is Lamormon, who is basically a berserker, obsessed with protecting Ruri. But yeah, that obsession's not healthy, he's a pretty violent Digimon. So then his last form, he is a knight, based on Deermund. It's like Dirabitmon. If you don't know Deermund from Celtic lore, he was a member of the Knights Fianna, which means he served under Finn McCool. I don't know how to describe Finn McCool other than he's also a culture hero. But you know, he served as a knight, and what his main story is the time where he had to betray Finn McCool in order to protect a woman who wanted to be betrothed to him. There's a lot more to it, but I'm using the surface level to say the surface level of Angoramon is that he wants to be kind of a chivalrous protector of Ruri, and he finally achieves that in his last form. He's a very introspective Digimon. He has a whole bunch of like parables and fables. He was originally a digital world researcher with his friend, which is odd to say, Digitamamon. When Digitamamon is eating people in the real world, he's the one who executes him, and he makes that conscious choice actually dead Digitamamon. So yeah, Angoromon's definitely separate from Ruri in terms of personality and the way he develops. Ruri doesn't become more of a protector. There's not too much development for the humans in Ghost Game, but I'm actually gonna put him. This is a hard list. Sorry, I like Gomamon more. Okay. Jellymon! So unless I am mistaken and this Marine Angemon's actually female, Jellymon's the only female presenting Digimon paired up with a dude. Her partner is one of those middle school syndrome kids who's also a super genius, like, computer nerd. He basically went through, like, MIT and now is back in school in Japan because he wants to have the Japan school experience. So, major nerd. He's also terrified of ghosts in the series called Ghost Game. When Jellymon first appears in the series, he is getting harassed by her. She's leaving messages in blood that turns out to be ketchup. She's like floating around, bothering him. She calls him darling, which is interesting. I know I mentioned Renamon and Rika being lovers. This is probably a more toxic relationship because Jellymon likes to cause trouble. She has many things that exist outside of being the partner. While he's on the computer, sometimes she's going around doing her own things. She wants to make a bunch of money in the human world and have fun. She usually does it by causing trouble with Digimon, so she'll like set up a sleeping environment using Pillowmon that traps people in dreams and being like, oh yeah, this is the most relaxing viewing you can get. She also really wants to be like one of the girls. She goes and like gets dressed up with Ruri, so she has her own unique relationship with Ruri, and there's even an episode where Ruri is able to spur on her evolution when everyone else is knocked out by being too cold. It's like she has her own unique relationship with like other partners, which I don't think any other Digimon has on this list. Like, Cyberdramon never interacts with anyone. Like, if you put Agumon and Matt together, I don't know what they'd do. But I know what Jellymon would do. The only issue with Jellymon is that she causes problems. That's more of a personal dislike than she's her own character. She definitely exists as her own and has her own desires. I would say more so than even Terriermon. And Terriermon's a troublemaker too. I really like the Digimon in Ghost Game, I guess, is what this is telling me. Yeah, Jellymon doesn't have development more so. What's more interesting is how she actually respects her partner. She respects his tech knowledge. She respects when he's able to get serious despite being scared. But she also likes messing with him. Like I said, it's not quite a healthy relationship, but I think that's what makes it more interesting. I'm going to rate Jellymon higher than Terriermon for the walls. Espimon. He is technically a Digimon partner. I didn't put Assistant Terriermon on here, but that's because he only appears in 2 episodes, and that wouldn't be enough to talk about. However, Espimon I can talk about. Way later into the series, Hero evolves him, which is why I'm putting him on this list, into Hover Espimon, which I believe counts as a champion Digimon, but whatever. Hero actually has 2 Digimon he can Digivolve, and that's interesting. And that's because he's formed a bond with Espimon. Espimon was sent to the digital world by Hero's dad to look for him. For some reason, he thinks that Hero either exists as a card or looks exactly like Hero's dad, so he's always like, oh, you're not the real Hero, which is a joke. It's not that funny. I wouldn't say Espimon has too many desires of his own, other than the episode where he does evolve, and that's just where he wants to help people and Digivolve. Let's put him at the top of E. I did it. Here's my Digimon partner tier list based on how much they exist as their own Digimon. I hope you enjoyed watching this. My throat is dead, so thank you if you watched any of this. Hopefully it was entertaining. Let me know if you did like it. I'm always willing to talk about more Digimon. Bye.